Yeah, different information is coming in that recognizes that aware people, people that are consciously navigating the the dynamics of our world today, that there there are many dimensions, many realities available right now, not visible to very many people, really. Some people, probably more than we know. And I'll digress just a little bit. This is interesting as far as creating, and that's what we're looking to do, is to focus our energy on that which we want to create. But uh, I, I've got this little compartment in my car where I keep a few bills, and and those are, for sharing, for people that are asking for money on a corner. And sometimes I'm driving by, and I'm making judgments about these people, worth the money or not worth the money. And so finally, I was getting the message, dude, just the next person you see is the divine asking you for some help. Just do it. And so I'm driving in Northwest Austin and come up to this corner, and there's a guy, and he's making his way the uh, down the median. I'm going, this is the guy, and making my own identification of him as he's walking up, and yeah, right, and roll the window down, and just give him the money that's in the little cubby. And then we just started chatting. I said, hey, how you doing? And he says, yeah, I'm good. He said, how are you doing? I said, I'm having a great day. And then we end up talking. And so he says, what's your name? And I go, Siri. And he said, oh, yeah. And I said, what's your name? And he tells me his name. And then we're it's almost at the end of the light cycle. And and so he says, man, I hope you have a good day. And his attitude at that point was his eyes lowered down a little bit, and I'm not sure, but I think his hands came together, and he was just in a prayerful state. And 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 we ended up just blessing each other and going on our way. And I'm going, see, you think you know where somebody's coming from. You think you know who they are. You're making a judgment about them, but you don't know how the interaction is ever going to play out.
That's right.
And so and you extrapolate to everyone. You have no idea who this person is if you're in your head. You just have to get into a different space. So anyway, that was an example of another reality, another dimension available, just because um, just the simple fact of getting outside the head, getting outside the judgmental mind or the ego driven mind. And so the idea is, if we want to create a specific kind of reality, let's say we know why we're here. We can tell just by the succession of our sharings with one another, with other people that we know are tuned in and conscious, and other people we're not so sure, but if we have a conversation with them, we might become more sure that there are many people here that are going, the way things are progressing now, when you look outside at the way um, external stimuli are defining the environment, it's scary. It's like that's what we were talking about a little while ago. It's like, oh my God, my kids, I'm bringing my kids into this space. And, and, um, and this is sucking up a lot of my attention. And I have this nagging sense that it's all manipulated. And so the collective is saying, just focus on that which makes you feel good. Focus on that which you have come to help the earth usher into being. It's like all this plasma light that's coming from the sun is consciousness coming in, saturating our environment, saturating the cells of our body, and transforming us into the space that we know we're here to create. So
Hmm.
it fits into our May uh, focus of taking from the infinite, from the etheric level, and from the mental level, a translation of that quality into the physical, visible space.
Hmm.
So, one of the things they suggested was, you just find a song that's uplifting and just, and if it's the right song, if it's all this, it'll just come into your head. It was like I was listening to John Prine. Somehow it came up in YouTube, and I'm going, oh, I love John Prine. It's like it's so sad that he's not here making more music, but and so all these John Prine songs are running through my head, and I'm going, really? Is that what you want? Is that the mantra you're looking for? So it's important to find uplifting and attractive music that shares the message you want. But they're also saying that bookmark a gesture that you can go into that allows you to remember what you're here to create, to align yourself. And even in classes, we've said, okay, we know how we feel when we get through a Kriya, a pranayama meditation, when we have shunya, the 0 point field, that garden, fully as we can, present. Then you bookmark with a breath, with a certain, maybe a, a deep unconscious breath, but you start it consciously when you're bookmarking it. And every once in a while, you'll feel that this need that just have this sharp intake of breath and prana, and it shifts you in your consciousness. It shifts you in your attention and your body's responsibilities. And so they say just whatever it is, it could be hands on your heart, it could be hands open. It's like I like to get into shunya, which is my hands relaxed, palms up, and just relaxing. And so you find when you get into that space, either consciously or subconsciously, you notice, oh my God, there's that breath. Oh my God, that my hands are in that position. I'm really feeling relaxed right now. So that takes you into the space of your conscious creativity of, okay, I can extract myself from the programmed reality and insert myself into the desired reality. So um, that's the idea. There are many ways, I'm sure, to get there, which will um, investigate, in the coming month, and I'm excited about it.
Wow. So we're here with Siri Bahadur for our May Vibrations podcast, and um, welcome. It's such an honor to spend time with you and discuss these topics with you. And to everyone joining us, welcome. I I really like what you said about programming, and I think some of what we're doing and talking about is like designing your own personal custom program consciously using thought forms, mental projections, breath, mudra, and sort of creating a touchstone for yourself, which is how I used to talk to people about crystals, people that didn't believe in crystals. I'm like, well, if you believe in positive thought and you believe in the material world, then you're taking this object, it's part of the material world, and you imbue it with your intentional energy. And every time you interact with this object, and it could be anything, it doesn't have to be a crystal, although crystals have crystalline grid structure, which creates symphonic resonance, which, there's this whole mathematical science about why crystals actually work that people tend to overlook, skeptics. But it could be anything, and I think what we're talking about as we're going through this process, and I'm a natural skeptic. So I am a spiritualist, and I was raised by hippies, so I've been in this sort of new agey spiritual community world since before I was born. But when people talk about 5D ascension and the ascension process and these things, the skeptic in me starts to go, I'll see it. I'll believe when I see it. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm starting to see something, you know. And I think when you're talking about interacting with that gentleman and how it's your openness, your availability to remain open that makes those, Carl Jung talks about a set of real numbers, right? And when you interact with another autonomous person, there's like a certain amount of possible real number expressions, right? So totally unique experiences that you can only have when these two people come into some kind of relationship with each other. And when one of those people has expectations, projections, fears, they're closing off the amount of real numbers that are possible, right? Because they're only looking for information from this narrow channel. And anything outside of that, it's like it may happen just as a course of interacting with that person and the randomness and the sort of miracle, right, when two come together. But because we have those blinders on of, this person is, a homeless person, they're a beggar, they're whatever, like I can't learn anything from this person because I'm up here and they're down here. And, you know, um, it, 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 it keeps us sort of in these narrow windows.
Mhm.
Um, And the other thing I wanted to say, and I'm not a Christian. It's said that the devil works in distraction.
Mhm.
That its main function is to simply distract us. And so when you're talking about, remembering the work, and creating sort of this, create a posture, create a mudra, create a breath, all around syncing yourself to the core of the work that in your heart, you know, but we get so distracted by all of these things, pulled in all these different directions, thinking, all these materialistic things are important and they need our attention and our help, when really, you know, there's there's such a finite, like, in the material world, it's like this finite little channel, but in the etheric world, it's like, okay, well, you can pray over anything, right? So I don't know,
Mhm.
like, I feel like I get myself caught in these paradoxes,
Mhm.
which to me is always a signal that like you're onto something. Is like if you find yourself in a paradox, that means you've like stumbled upon some kind of real truth, because truth is always going to have some kind of like binary thing. Is these things have to coexist.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I like that that concept of we open up to that which we know, and we don't know what we don't know, which is all of the other stuff outside of the slice, and also another dynamic of that is we see what we look for. So if I'm looking for a beggar that's just going through motions or not even trying at all, just waiting for somebody to give them something, well, then that's what I see. And so the idea is um, just set aside the the application of past experience or the messaging of the prevailing programs of the times. Set those aside and look for something else, something from the unknown, and that to me, that's the beauty of the life, is that um, universal creative life or the divine allows for each of us to direct our energy and create something by with our thought forms, but by our interpretation of the moment and all the circumstances that we've been attracting across time and space, um, and without judgment from that universal life. It's like we like to create or think we're creating God in our image, and so we assign to the divine these human foibles and ways of doing things, thinking, and all of that. When in the spiritual space and in the conscious space, it's like divine is just waiting for us to discover new, exciting, and expansive dimensions of its creativity. And so I think the more we refine and open up, uh, again, Shunya is that laboratory or that garden or that workspace which allows us to open up to see something that we haven't predetermined we're going to see,
Mm.
and and the discovery process of, okay, how do my thoughts shift the electromagnetic structure of the cosmos, all those particles of light magnetically aligned, which are influenced by my brain waves? Can I just set aside time to recognize the bookmark that I set in my practice to realize that I can consciously create, and I can tune in to that which was previously unknown to me. We like to take pride in that we have figured out life,
Yeah.
and we figure out life at our own peril, pretty much, right? Because hey, if I figured it out, that means uh, I'm tied into the same old structure that I've been creating, and if you're happy there, that's fine. But even people that are successful are not happy, and people that are happy are not always successful in terms of the way we like to define it. So yeah, how do we recognize what we've created? Where do we recognize where it's coming from?
Mm.
So that's our I think that's our purpose for May. It's the physical is the teacher of where we're investing our energy and our thoughts, and 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 the other thing is having opening up to creativity, opening up to that space, that world, that dimension that we long for. Because it's like we all long for everyone we see to have, just uh, a meaningful relationship, a meaningful communication, a meaningful exchange, appreciation of life, and and I think that as we expect that, and as we have gratitude for it, and as we invest the momentum of our feelings and our desires for what we desire to create, we accelerate the process of its creation into our space, into our world. So you wonder sometimes, okay, what if somebody here is consciously creating the new dimension, and this person over here is consciously not creating that dimension? It's like, how does all this sift out? Well, rather than having a preconceived notion of what that is, let's just kind of tune in and see what happens.
I mean, it beats the alternative, which is, what's been going on so far, which has been, you know, a lot of unconscious creation. Um, so like so number five is the physical body.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for me, it's everything that we experience, even all of the etheric, otherworldly, yogic, you know, mind expanding, whatever things that we experience, it's all still filtered through the physical body, right? So there is no, I think we make the mistake of compartmentalizing, you know, and a lot of our culture, at least Western culture, is, neck up. We're
Mm.
living very much in our head, even our experience of our physical bodies. comes from an intellectualization of what the body is and how it functions and macros, and it's still a mental game that we're playing. And so just from my own bias perspective, somatics and embodiment work, and really sinking into like why the body, because to me, why incarnate? Like that's the big question. Because in the spiritual and etheric realms, like there's all different kinds of laboratories, and like you were saying, there's different realms of creative expression, and there's diversification of all different sorts of nuances and things. So what is the actual point of material incarnation? And I think that that is it's a very interesting question. I think that the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years maybe, um, that will become a more important question, generally speaking. And I'm so curious to see, like you were saying, like what is it, what are we going to do, like what will happen, and that's the beautiful thing is I don't know what will happen. No one does. We could all blink out of existence tomorrow. Maybe if a majority of people wake up, then the experiment's over, and you know reset button.
Hmm.
I don't know.
We
um
don't.
and rather than getting caught again in that distraction loop of getting way ahead of yourself and like being in your head and being consumed by like only a fraction of what the physical body is capable of, this is an opportunity to start awakening and enlivening with like imbuing our consciousness into every cell, into every independent expression of every cell, and how, because just the body itself is a mystery in many ways, how it works, why the lymphatic system and the blood system, why does that work, and why do some people get sick and some people don't get sick, and they're exposed to the same things. We all have, HIV virus in our system, but only a few people end up immunocompromised. Those are things that we still don't really fully understand. And I think it's a unique opportunity now, and kind of that that dichotomy of, you know, we're dealing, I think, with a lot of like selfishness in our culture, and that like need to defend and protect, and we see selfishness and self-possession so much in pop culture. We run into it every day. If we go to the grocery store, we see this self obsessed. And so I think you make a very interesting point about, you know, intentionally wishing others well, intentionally wishing someone have that expansive experience, and really start using our projection as something that's beneficial to humans that we interact with, because we can play victim of reality, or we can be creator. Those two things don't usually work together, right? You kind of have to pick one. You can either be a victim of what is, or you can say, well, this is what it is, and I'm now going to make choices. Um, and the physical body is the only vehicle that we know of currently in our incarnation that we can do that. So,
Yeah. The physical body reflects the characteristics, the qualities of our choices. And it's again coming back to Shunya. It's like, okay, so there's programming out here, and there programming coming in, programming going out, and to allow both of those polarities to coexist in Shunya means that you get to hold them without judgment, and you get to unchoose programming from without resistance,
mm,
without judgment. It's just it's a very, who knows what the degree of separation is between um, allowing something, ignoring it, and resisting it.
mm,
It's like sometimes the incoming reality is so uncomfortable that 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 our own egocentric mind's capacity to react to it uh, to protect us, creates this counter force that begins to influence and determine our overall frequency, which is a reaction of incoming reality that's designed to distract us and bring us into a state of fear.
Hmm.
The the polarity of that is saying, come, that's supposed to scare me, right? And then you go, no, I'm singing a song. I'm calling in, my relatives that are on the other side. I'm calling in my teachers. I'm calling on the star seed out there. I'm calling on my galactic brothers and sisters. Because who knows? Do we really know where we come from in this space? Some of us, yes. Some of us, no. But, there's all of this. Um, Full spectrum of dimensions and realities that are right there if we just call on them. And that's why different disciplines will say, hey, just ask,
Yeah.
just ask. Knock on the door, see who's on the other side. You can't, until you invite your helpers and your guides and your angels in, they're just going, one of these days, Siri Bahadra's going to ask for a little help, right? And we're just hanging out here. It's like I can just see him all playing dominoes or go fish or something. Just go, a little creative thing here or there, just with an eye out to Siri Bahadra to see what he's up to and whether he's actually going to acknowledge their existence and call them in. So, and that's a lot of the big message now is just we know that there's so much information out there that is kind of like, whoa, there's a lot of force to keep us in this space, and some of us realize that we have been in an enslaved place. You're captive, as much as you allow yourself to be, and so now is the time for the creative expression of freedom and see how that manifests. And I don't know, there's this thought floated through my head. Well, it can't get much worse than it is. And as soon as I say that, I'm going, well, I don't know, maybe it could, but it can get so much better. And that's what we choose. As yoginis and yogis, we're choosing the path that is for the highest good of all and for the unknown uh, divine flow of life to become known to us little by little.
I had a, and I don't usually share these with people, so this is a little bit of a stretch for me. But it was last week. Um, I had this message or download or whatever you choose to call it, and it's basically like the Earth is a very unique laboratory of other beings that are not incarnate, um, you know, exist around us in this. Because people, I think, the natural reaction when you start talking about angels and guides, and some people are like, "Oh, I'm a skeptic, right? I'm a skeptic." So really, like, is it really like that, or like, are they really good, or whatever? And I think, for as finite, we have such finite incarnation. Although there's a lot of diversity and stuff on Earth, but the amount of consciousness that's outside of Earth is exponential compared to what is actually manifested on the Earth. And so, yes, there are beings that are so, interested and curious, and because Earth like this has never existed before. And that's part of what makes it, vulnerable on the one hand, because we have free will. We've been able to choose these mental prisons and choose to accept the old paradigms as they were and believe that we were victims and believe that we were, all these things. And now, we have this other choice and more choice is coming in. And whether or not people choose to connect to or invite that space in, I think it's important to start to recognize um, that no, we're not alone, and we never were alone, and we never will be alone, and that the sense of um, aloneness and singularity and autonomy and separation that exists in the material world for Earth now does serve an important function. But what that function is, I don't think we have a clear answer on. I think that's part of the experiment and the exploration. And so I think, relaxing around some of that and going into shunya and just saying, well, I feel alone in my life or I feel isolated and what is that, and what purpose does that serve in my life, both as a negative impetus and as a positive impetus, you know? Um, because I think that there's a lot of information there for people to unpack as individuals. Um, and I'm so excited. Let's talk a little bit about some of the events going on this month. We have a new offering for a partnership that you're doing with Guru Dan at his home, as well as regular classes as well. So share a little bit about some of that, and we'll close it out.
Yeah. Well, yes, Guru Danan has invited me to share in this workshop space. I think it's May 22nd at his house from 1 to 5. And we're just looking to heal the unhealed places and, just use some asana, some pranayam, some breath work, the sounds of the gong to influence the frequency and the vibrational quality of the practice space. And then we'll have some, he'll bring in a dinner for us as well. So just a limited amount of people that can be accommodated in that space. And so, it's on Instagram, it'll be on my website. You can just also check in with Guru Dan and his social media outreach. But that should be a really nice, intimate, and really deep investigational space. I'm looking forward to that. So we have that one planned. I think we have another one planned in June. Um, Next Sunday, we're doing an intermediate Gong training. Last Saturday, not yesterday, but a week ago from yesterday, we did a beginner's how to play the Gong session at Shunya Yoga Collective. So that's we'll carry forward with that. If you play the Gong and you would like to, uh, deepen your experience and bring a little more intention and refinement into playing, come out and we'll investigate that together. Oh wow, May 19th, we're starting 10 body series at Flow Yoga, five Thursday evenings from um, 6:30 to 9:30. There are 3 hour sessions where we'll investigate the various components of us as human beings. Um, the soul, the physical body, all the realm of the mind, and then the etheric realm as well with arc line, auric field, pranic body, subtle body, radiant body, and how all of those act together, um, and how we navigate our challenges. Each of us have our own challenges in the life, and each of us have our gifts, our toolbox of what comes easily for us to work, and also determining what our path and what uh, our journey of fulfillment entails in terms of what we already have at our disposal. Um, yeah, we're not even going into June yet. We'll have a solstice thing with Matab, with a bunch of gongs and some yoga and stuff at a new venue. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
And so for anyone who, is either new to Siri Bahadur's work and offerings or has come to classes or joined a workshop, the 10 light bodies is one of his specialties. It's yogic numerology combined with sort of what we've been talking about in this podcast today. How is that all integrated and layered to kind of give you the 10-tiered birthday cake that is your slice of life? And it's a great year to participate in this because you haven't offered this since before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And your experience and awareness and sort of some of the things that you've been working on have now informed how you approach this. And it's the Arcline year. And we're starting this in the 5 month, which is the physical body. And so it's just a perfect time to, sink in and integrate and unpack some of these sort of nuances and layers. And you'll be continuing to offer other series at Flow Yoga as well. But this is
Mm-hmm.
a fantastic opportunity for people, as well as the workshop with Gurudon. I'm excited that you guys are coming together to do that. So exciting times, and everything is available on the website and via Instagram, Facebook. So make sure that you follow us there and follow Surya Bahadur. Get on the email list so you can keep abreast of all of the offerings and any changes that may come because the email um, is consistent as far as making sure people are informed. And there's also some links to the other podcasts, and Siri puts out some thoughts as well in the email. So definitely get on the list so you can stay up to date. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much. As usual, it's always a pleasure. I feel like, other areas of my brain always are waking up whenever we talk. I'm just like, whoa, 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 this, that,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then, come back with something even more, even more. So, wish you well always. Much love to you, and thank you for playing.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's my pleasure and privilege. I really appreciate um, your presence in our relationship.
Oh, thank
Just,
you.
yeah, hold you in love. Thank you.
Thank you.